Hello there, and welcome to the Sound Legacy Podcast. My name is Andrew Couch, and with my business partner, Paul Shelton, we bring you this here program. Today, we've got a great guest. Her name is Paula Marks, and she is the Vice President of At-Home Caregivers. I met her at a local networking group and just found her to be compelling and charming and filled with great information. She clearly does her work with heart. I think you'll see that very clearly in this episode. I'm really happy to share her story with you as someone who just genuinely cares about older adults and just people in general. I don't know, we're really lucky to be able to talk to people like that and share their stories. If there's someone out there you know whose story you'd like to preserve, we're your guys. We love storytelling. We love the opportunity to help people preserve their memories and take the lore and mythology of a family or a human life and put that in a archival, inheritable format that people long from now will be able to share and enjoy. So yeah, reach out to us at mysoundlegacy.com and enjoy this podcast episode with Paula Marks. And if you need resources, in the show notes, we'll have links to Paula's company and other places where you can get help if you're trying to figure out how to navigate seniors at home, care at home, dementia care. If you're going through anything like this is a good episode for you. All right. Thank you. We're really, really glad you're here. Till next time, adios. Well, hey there, Paula. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for bringing little Ziggy. I've got two sweet little dogs here who are actively trying to ignore one another. I'm really glad that you brought him by. 15-year-old Ziggy. He may or may not show up on camera here, but I'm glad you're here, Ziggy. You said he doesn't hear very well?
He doesn't hear very well, and he doesn't see very well. So he's negotiating the world through smell at this point. So yeah. Very
apropos that you would have also a senior dog in your life. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I want us just maybe give everybody like a quick, who are you, what is your professional title, and how do you come to be here today?
Part of this. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me come. I love this place. And I just, the first time I met you, I thought this is a significant moment. I felt really compelled to kind of get to know you a little bit better. And I love what you guys are doing. I mean, it's wonderful to hear people's stories and why they do what they do. And I'm happy to share mine. So my name's Paula Marks, and I am currently acting vice president of a small, locally owned home care agency called At-Home Caregivers. So that's what I'm doing in this current iteration. And I'm from Canada originally. I've lived in the United States for about 30 years. I have 3 kids that all grew up here in Marin and are now launched and doing their own thing. And so, I feel like I'm very much a part of the community and have grown up here myself. You know?
It's funny. Since you and I have met, I've talked to several people about the fact that you're coming on. They're like, oh, I love Paula. Like so many people in the elder care space here in Marin are like, they know you, they've been around you and have nothing but nice things to say about you, which is really cool.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you like what we're doing. And I'm very curious about your life. You sent me like a little tidbit that is just exciting enough to want to know everything. So yeah, here we go. I want to know, and if just pull that a little bit closer to you.
Yeah, I know. So, soft voice.
No, it's great. You've got a lovely Canadian, gentle voice that I appreciate. I just want to make sure we get it all on tape.
Yeah.
Barbados.
How
did you end up in Barbados?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this, and I'm like, how much do I want to share and not share? But I think it's really important to kind of what I think we both probably want to get out of this conversation and what we want to share with folks. And so my mom, who is sort of the most iconic person in my life, I'd say, an amazingly intelligent woman who's achieved a lot in her life, but kind of born in a time, pardon me, that there wasn't a lot for women. So she met my dad. They actually met when they were 16 and got married and so on and so forth. And she came from a very private school background. My dad would say she would wear the white gloves, and my dad was a country bumpkin. He was a semi-pro hockey player from a big farming family.
Where in Canada?
So Northern Ontario. So
Okay.
he was born in Mattawa,
Okay.
and they met in Northern Ontario. So very different kind of people. Anyhow, they got married, as people did. For women, that was just kind of what you did.
Yeah.
And then the sexual revolution happened, and she really, being sort of a unique personality, I think she just had a real existential crisis. She had little kids, and she kind of up and left, and moved to Barbados and started a whole life journey there.
But so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to go from Northern Ontario to
I
Barbados,
know.
what was her connection to Barbados?
Yeah. So she had a friend who was she was a stewardess. And so she used to travel a lot to Barbados, and she brought my mom along. And
Oh, okay.
that sort of opened up this crack and
Yeah.
created this momentum for this. It was a metamorphosis. She was shedding a self that didn't serve her, and going in a new direction. And I
Got to
came
go with.
along.
Yeah.
which was both really, really good and
How
really
old were
bad.
you at this time?
So really very young, like almost baby years, because I remember being there very, very young. And I went to school there. But we kept on going back and forth. And the reason why it's hard for me to say exactly is when I try and talk to her about it, she doesn't like to talk about that time in her life. So when I try and corroborate, like, when did we come? When did we leave? Finally, I get sort of a wall of resistance there. But I have tremendous memories of being in school, of being babysat by people, of being very lonely, like chronically and insufferably lonely, and feeling very unsafe. And that's a whole, other conversation and
Yeah.
mystery. And
Unsafe in that, like, you just didn't have, you felt like an outsider, you felt like physically unsafe, or when you say unsafe, what do you mean?
yeah, thanks. So no, I feel like it's a very matriarchal culture, and I felt very, very cared for by the community. And let's clarify it. My mom was in a mixed race marriage, so I was in the Black community. There is a white community there, but I was not in that community. And so there was safety there, and that those people cared for me, but the safety wasn't with my mom. So my mom was sort of going on an adventure and a life journey that didn't focus around being a mother or being familial. And so that's the space where I kind of lost some connection or the things that kids would normally get. But it also, like everything in life, it was also a huge opportunity. And that sadness and that loneliness also kind of created me into the person that I am. And it's some of the things that I'm most proud of. Don't get me wrong. When people say, it made you tough and you're better for it, I don't like to buy into that. I think that, you can have a safe and happy life and still do extraordinary things. But it is I learned certain things, and it created a resilience in me and a toughness that I think has served me well, and mostly around understanding how people affect each other, how we affect each other.
Yeah. Say more about that toughness. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you're a kid that doesn't have parenting, you kind of have to figure out how to survive, right? You're either going to sink or swim. And luckily for me, I figured out how to survive, and I figured out how to paddle my own canoe, and I learned it very, very, very early. And it's, so I feel like I can trust myself,
Yeah.
which is it's a good
It's
learning.
tremendous. Yeah. It's a great thing to be able, if you're going to trust anybody, start there.
Exactly.
But what did you seek out elders? How did you find a way to navigate? How'd you do that?
So circling back to what I'm doing now.
Well, or just, how did you manage it as a kid? How did you figure out, okay, I'm not safe, things are not right. What am I going to do to make sure I'm okay?
Yeah. So that's sort of more, spiritual and esoteric. And it's sort of a beautiful thing that I think is so available to kids and available to older people. Like I've always said to people, I'm the bookends person. I love little kids and I love older adults because they're very, very real. And I feel like not exclusively, but I think by and large, because of the place that you are in your life journey, it kind of creates the opportunity to engage in the world in a way that's maybe more ethereal, that's more expansive, you know? So as a little kid, I one of the schools I went to was a religious school, and it was very, like, we had corporal punishment. I mean, you got the ruler on the knuckles. It was super hard. And it was very, again, I think I was only one of the only white people in the classroom. And I feel like in retrospect that there was, you know, you were learning how to behave a certain way, all of us. Like, it was like the colonial agenda. And so there was always that context. That being said, there was this beautiful garden, and with these amazing kind of statues in it. And I remember, and I'm not particularly religious, but I remember when I would go into the garden and just kind of be myself with myself, I would just know with absolute certainty that I was held. And it was in that space that I felt that kind of calming presence, that it's going to be okay, that I'm loved, that I'm worthy. And it was, you know, being a child and looking at statues and seeing the sun filter through the leaves and feeling sad, but then being part of something more expansive, or even going down to the ocean and watching the ocean. So that became, you know, a source of kind of comfort and stability for me that has maintained my whole life.
That's interesting. So you weren't seeking comfort in other people necessarily?
Not really. And that's one of the beautiful and bad things. So I learned that people are not very trustworthy, and it's not because I think that we are, because I'm people. So me, I include myself in that. It's not that we're not untrustworthy. It's that we have a life experience. We're trying to engage in the world, and we do things because of that struggle and our survival. And sometimes that can mean that we treat other people or ourselves not in the best place that we could be. But running through that, I feel really strongly, and it's probably a core thing too. Like I'm at my core a happy person. Like, I have a lightness and a levity, which my brother has as well, and that has made it easier for me as well. Like, I do think the best in people. Yeah. But that being said, since I had a lot of adults in my life who were not behaving in a way that I knew intuitively as a kid that this is not about me, this is probably not right. And then certainly as an adult, I would, you know, I was a very different parent than my mom was. I learned that saying, it's such a goofy saying, but love many, trust few, but always paddle your own canoe. It's ridiculous, but it's like spot on. So
why have I never heard that? Love many,
trust few, but always paddle your own canoe. So I have good friends. I like most people. I think I'm much more expansive about people's behavior. Like, I don't expect people to be perfect because I kind of know they're not.
Sure.
But I take care of myself, right? Like, and I try and do my best and show up for myself and show up for the people I love. But I've learned that, you know, sometimes people can hugely and egregiously let you down, you know, and just the way it is. So
I can't decide if that is an extremely Canadian thing to say or if it's a Barbadian. Like, the canoe bit makes it feel Canadian for some reason, but it could also. Where does that come from? I don't know where that. I've never heard that phrase.
It actually was a woman in my life. I've always, you know, you attract things. Like, I think I attracted you. I think you attracted me. I've always had really significant people in my life, and they always kind of roll into my life at the perfect moment. And I left home very young. I left home when I was 16. So I've really started life in a hard journey kind of way. And I'm really proud of myself doing it. It worked out for me. I got through school. I've been successful. I did all the right things.
Barbados at 16, or were you back in Canada?
It was back in Canada.
Okay.
I went up, So I've managed to kind of work it out for myself. But that being said, there was a woman that I was working with at the time, and she told me that. And it like resonated. It just was like exactly what I needed to hear at exactly the right time. And I had that in Barbados, and I've had that throughout my life, even with clients, with customers, with older adults, with caregivers. Like, I've had people just like those epic things that they tell you right at the time when you need to hear it, and you never ever forget them.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you feel at all inspired by your mom?
Oh, completely. I know it's such a weird, like, this is where I was like, do I want to say everything about my mom? But she my mom and I, like, whatever reason we're born into this planet to be together, we have a story. And it was a hard story. But the things that she did that were hurtful to me spun me in a journey that I think I benefited from in a lot of ways. I don't know what I've meant to her necessarily, because we're not really close. Like, my relationship with her is really in my own head. There's a lot of like I said, like, she won't talk about Barbados. She won't. There's a lot of things that there's the hand goes up, and and so I have to just kind of engage with what she's willing to share with me and do with what I need from her, right? Sure. But I think that as a woman, like, I have a minor in women's studies, and I have both an undergraduate and graduate degree in criminology. And the thing that compels me the most is why people do the things that they do. That's always been kind of my effervescent quest to know what motivates people. Why do they do what they do? And it comes kind of from my mom. But I understand, if you're a really smart woman and you're living in sort of a cage of your own creation, a cage of society's creation, sure. And then all of a sudden a crack is created and you have this opportunity to thrive. Well, I can't fault her, right? Like, sure. I don't even know, would I do any better in that situation? Maybe not, But what I do appreciate her, she's very, like, super smart, way smarter than me, very engaged in her community, like, very politically active. She's, eats all organic. We had all organic food before organic was even a thing. She's a hiker, mountain climber, artist. Wow. I mean, just like a phenomenal woman, but she's, you have to do what she wants to do.
Keep up.
She's going this way.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, the reason I'm asking that, I know that's deeply personal, but it's just such like I think we maybe even talked about this before about, because I always ask people who are in your space, like dementia care, hospice, in-home, like, I'm always curious what you think empathy is. I mean, everybody kind of has their own definition. It's relatively close, but sometimes people have really interesting. And the thing you just defined for me about empathy is that critical thinking faculty where you are really using the most interesting thing there is about imagination. You're really putting yourself in your mom's shoes, even though it's like clearly uncomfortable in a way.
Yeah.
To occupy that.
Thank you for acknowledging
seat.
That. Yeah.
Right. But that to me, it suggests that you're the right person for the job and what you do. So we're working our way towards your job.
Yeah.
But that bit with your mom, to me, like, it's very difficult. And I know it's difficult for any child, but like for young women and their mothers, those relationships can be so
intertwined.
fraught, right?
Yeah.
And but to be able to take yourself out of your own pain and your own feelings and be like, well, what was it like to be her?
Yeah.
Is such an act of imagination, critical thinking, and love. But how, if you were to just tell somebody, like you're one of your kids or some person on the street or an older adult, like, what is empathy to you? What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. It's so many things, and it's a co-creation, I think. But I think, it's being able to be with, right? So not projecting yourself onto the other person and really, really doing whatever you can to kind of understand where they're coming from, right? Without putting things onto that person. And so I do think that having someone share their story of who they are and having some context from where they're coming from is, you can never get outside your own meaning system. So it's always going to be mediated by where you come from. But that's like the first step to empathy. And empathy, as we know, in this administration where we're at right now in our human journey, is the pentultimate thing that we need to do better at, right? Across uncomfortable lines.
Sure.
And I think it's really, really important to exercise your greatest empathy for people you don't have a natural affinity for.
Yeah. It's most meaningful when it's very difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's easy to do, it's not that discounts it because it's easy, but it's especially important when it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And that, just hijack this for one quick second, because there's one thing that I thought was really important to me that I wanted to say that's important to me, so hopefully it'll be valuable to you. So, as a little kid, we're all born into our situation. We can't own that. It's just like white, person of color, male, female. Like, you can't own that, but you can own how you interact with that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But as a child, those meaning systems are evolving, right? Like, what is culture? What is white? What is black? What does it mean to be a human being or an animal or a plant? Like we're just learning all those things. But that at the same time that we're learning them, we're experiencing them viscerally, right? So I remember as a kid having, let's say, there's two huge incidents that will forever stick out in my mind. Having a gentleman, a man of color in the community who was beloved to me and I saw as very smart and just revered, being called a boy by white people, and being and worse than that, seeing him compromise himself when he was around them to fit this context. I remember being like, as a kid, just being like, what the hell? Like, the whole world stops and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, this is really confusing. And I had that with I had a whole pack of, kids in Barbados. Every woman is your mom. So kids just do what they do and you mind every woman in the culture. So you're always safe. But we went around as packs. And I could hop into the hotels to like use a restroom or do something like that. And this is when I was really little, but my friends wouldn't come with me and I didn't understand, but I did understand. It was like this weird space of knowing and not knowing kind of thing. But anyhow, the thing that I wanted to say today, which was important for me to get out, is that I had the privilege of being an outsider looking in a really weird way that was super expansive. It required me to be expansive because I was privileged in a weirdly unprivileged situation, a child. And that gave me a vantage point of looking into systems. Like, I saw how adults behaved. I saw how people across wealth and race and men and women, I saw how they behaved. And I wasn't affected by certain cultural filters, and I learned a lot. And I've used that weird, almost unfortunate childhood experience to help me in everything that I do. So I pay a lot less attention to what people say, and I pay a lot of attention to what people do, and I pay most attention to how people make other people feel.
Yeah.
And that's where I got into the caregiving thing, because it is, like, especially with dementia, the best, we do all kinds of dementia training, tender rows, but I've always said the best, and I'm also trained as a lay midwife. I had my children naturally, and I went to the National Midwifery Institute, and I did that. And I worked as a doula at SF General, and I've had all kinds of different iterations in my life. But being with someone is the essence of what is a good caregiver, or what is the most important thing in the moment. And actually, if you watch how children are, they might say the wrong words, they might do the wrong thing, they might fail a dementia training. But if you look at how they show up and how they are and how they interact, that's what you want. And it's the same thing with a doula. And those caregivers who are really, really expert. And at Tender Rose, we only had the super complex dementias, the Lewy body, the multifactor, the frontotemporal, because we were a total solution to that problem. Those caregivers they are mining the room. They're mining the whole ethereal space that is around this person, and the emotional intelligence and the intelligence that's needed to take someone whose brain is reading everything perhaps wrong, or just going in weird ways, and figure out how to make them feel good as a person, because that's what it is. Good dementia care is like, your brain's changing, you're receiving information that isn't correct. You're still a human being. I'm a human being. How we can work together is if I connect with you as a person in your disease and I make you feel good. If you feel good, you're going to trust me, and I'm going to be able to keep you safe, keep you doing the things that you love, and so on and so forth. And there's a transference that happens where the caregiver becomes that warm blanket. Whenever I'm around Andrew, I feel good. Whenever I'm around Andrew, I feel safe. Whenever I'm around Andrew, I don't feel scared. And that's like what caregiving is. But the path to that means you have to be able to step outside your meaning system, your prejudices, your ideas, your preconceptions, your training even, and just get back to that most basic level is, I'm here for you. I'm a person of service, and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to take all my animal, because we're animals, you know, I mean, the way I'm smelling you, the way I'm sensing you, the way your eyes are moving, your body language, everything, and I'm going to figure out a way to make you feel whole in this moment. And that does help if you've been someone who's maybe been on the outside of things looking in, right, and had the unfortunate opportunity or the fortunate opportunity to be truly an outsider.
Yeah.
You know, which is weird.
No, it's weird, but it's also, it's one of those outcomes. It's like a weird series of inputs and like a sort of very understandable output,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
I love that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. There's so many things I could follow up on that, but we've got to slowly get to your career. But how are the elders in the community treated in Barbados versus how they're treated here or in Canada?
Yeah, that kind of breaks my heart. I mean, it's radically different.
Really?
I mean, so different, profoundly different. And I just, you know, with regard and reverence, I mean, it's a matriarchal island, but still the patriarchy thrives. So weirdly, the man always eats first and then it's the mom. But if it's the mother of the man, that person eats first, right? So there's like a regard for that lineage of older people who kind of have birthed this community. Mm-hmm. And no one, like you know, they'll say, like, if you ever need help and you have a broken down car, you'll get help in a poor neighborhood, but you won't get help in a rich neighborhood. Right. And I'm sorry, that could hurt some people. And I know that there's differences everywhere, but it's the same thing in Barbados. Like, you know, it's a culture where you take care of your fragile people and the people that need help. And there's a reverence and a regard for the history that's made you who you are, you know. And I think we, you know, part of where the country is right now and our need to access more empathy, to be able to how to work and function across lines, also dovetails into the fact that we don't honor and respect older adults and everything. And that, you know, I'm a bookends. I like the youngins and I like the old people because they're generally the most interesting people in the room. So when I go to a wedding, which I love because that's really, it's the place where old people and young people come together. Mm-hmm. You will find me hanging out with the kids and you'll find me dancing the maraca, cha-cha or whatever with the oldest person in the room. That's because great. They don't care anymore. And all those social graces and the like, you know, and I have a lot of social graces. It's kind of how I've had to survive, but you just lose that more as you age. Sure. And so you get to have like these really interesting, amazing conversations. And I feel sorry for people who don't sit down with an older person and engage in curiosity with them. Yeah. Or even with a younger person. Like, young people are so cool, the way they say things and things that they do, but we are always thinking we need to grow them up and, you know, so on and so forth, and not say, you know what, I have a really big problem at work today. Maybe I'll ask my 5-year-old, what would you do? Yeah. And I'm like that with my kids. Like, I have a really, really close relationship with my children. That's cool. And sometimes I think they don't like it, but it's weird because when you haven't really been parented like I haven't been, you sort of always remain a child, which is not a good thing for being a parent. But I think actually I was able to be a good parent, but I have that childlike quality, and that sometimes I put things to my kids that other parents probably wouldn't, just to see what they'd say. And I think it's worked because they're all amazingly empathetic, engaged, loving, kind human beings. Like, I know everyone, we all love our kids, but I'm like so proud of the human beings that they are. Like, my son, I mean, he's so much himself. Like, he's a dude, he's a guy. Like, he's not, sometimes he says things that are just like a little bit like, ooh, but he's also the most kindest, most empathetic person. But most importantly, he's very real. Yeah. Like, he doesn't mind saying things that are challenging for people, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about him is he will listen to other points of view, and he'll iterate and come to his own, like he'll evolve. And anyhow, I think that has been helpful too for me, for them. It's made for a very rich and unique dynamic. I hope that they would agree.
I could imagine.
I think so, but
I love that you appreciate your kids so much, and you can still, I mean, they're grown, they're adults, right there, yeah.
They're adults,
and that you still see the child in them and still see the great things. So the reason I was asking you about the adults, the older adults in Barbados, so you feel that they were treated with a lot more reverence than what they receive here.
Oh, completely.
So I want to get to how, because you said you have a background in criminology and women's studies.
Yeah.
And that has made its way to able tech, age tech, to working with older adults and making your profession that.
Yeah.
I'd love to connect those dots. So how did you come from leaving? I mean, were you considered a runaway at 16? Did you, or were you just emancipated?
I emancipated myself. Yeah.
So you left at 16. Left Canada?
No, just the family home.
The family home. Okay.
Yeah.
And
to
then
live on my own.
How did you find your way to working with older adults?
Yeah. So that was quite an evolution. So it was going through a divorce. I have a really great divorce. I'm happy to say my ex and I are very good friends.
What a sentence.
I know.
Divorce.
I did. Yeah, we both agreed to, we both kind of, well, I won't. That's a whole other story. But anyhow, we're good. We're good friends, and we work well. We do everything together still as a family, even though we're separate. And I adore his girlfriend. She's just the most amazing woman in the world. So we have this expanded family as opposed to like a hatched family, but for very good reasons. But anyhow, so it was during that rupture when we were kind of deciding to live separately. And I had to figure out, how do I earn a living? Like, what do I do? And I had a girlfriend who was actually, I think she's the youngest anchor person in all of Canada. She was in TV and, she's just an amazing woman and really good, like at doing what you're doing, like getting people to talk. And she's like, okay, Paula, stream of consciousness. I want you to just say, what moves you and grooves you. So we did this exercise where I was just like, and she wouldn't let me think about it. That was the key. I couldn't think about it. And it all clustered around older adults. And I was like, And I had just come off of doing you can't really make money as a midwife. And I had actually done my nursing credentials and I was like, that's never, I hadn't finished nursing school. That was part of the rupture. But anyhow, not really. So I had to think more creatively. And I thought, well, I got sort of like the social justice background, which is like, how do I help people survive or do better in a really hard situation. So I had done that with juvenile offenders and domestic survivors and so on and so forth. And then I had been in healthcare around helping kind of women, have children and that whole process. And I taught childbirth education at Kaiser, at CPMC. I taught at private birth clinics. I played that role. But anyhow, we have this huge, from a social scientist, I'm always looking at demographic trends. We have these massive need for older adults to thrive and survive and live and what have you. And I always am all about thriving and surviving and living well. And I was like, and I happen to love them, right? And so she said, okay, why don't you go into that? So I took a very entry level business development position in the area, and I just kind of moved up. And I, after sort of learning that and the experience with Tender Rose, which was a startup, really innovative, completely new approach, highly optimized for quality of life. We created a world around not just the individual, but the whole family that was optimized for their success. So, it could be a TV show, what we did, like all the things we did to make people.
Sorry, and a quick interruption aside. What's the woman's name who developed the technique that Tender Rose?
Tipa Snow.
Tipa Snow.
But I wouldn't say we used her, but we did our own things as well. But she was at the core because she was the first person to really focus on not the disease itself and trying to muscle your way through compliance or getting it done, but how can I actively get someone to engage? And I'm sure you've watched her videos. It's all about connection and how do we work together? Like you think you're a dance, how are you gonna groove together to get these things done that need to happen for us to thrive and survive, and so to speak. But anyhow, so it was that, and it was moving into that, but then because I'm always thinking, kind of being on the outside in, I'm not a career employee. I'm always pushing the envelope. I'm always about innovating and where are the problem spaces and where do we need to do things. And right now, my huge concern is older adults who fall under the elder index. So they're house rich, cash poor. They're the majority of older adults in the United States. And they literally, it is a roller coaster about to go off the tracks, and everybody knows it, but no one's really doing anything about it. And so my engagement in age tech, which I've done as a consultant for the last couple of years now, has been really about technology solutions to kind of create a safe care environment, mostly in the pre-care space, because the only way to drive down costs, allow people to have more expansiveness in their ability to afford their long-term care journeys is just to be smarter and more preventative about those journeys.
Yeah.
And so the focus is more on the pre-care space and getting older adults and their family members to engage on how can we get information that is going to allow me to avoid that catastrophic event, whether that's a dovetail into social isolation or dementia or a fall.
Yeah.
And those opportunities that are a really affordable price point, right? So that by the time it comes to, yes, unequivocally now we do need to afford home care, it's not in a crisis. It's not like feeling awful because, the ER doctor is like, whoa, this could have been so avoided. Why didn't you do
Right.
anything? And it's the family is making the most expensive purchase in their life next to their house. And it's so stressful.
Yeah.
So that's the place where I'm really interested in kind of iterating right now. But
Yeah, I've watching a few people navigate this. I mean, we're on the talk about being an outsider. We're sort of a funny observer on the edge of that because we certainly want to work with older adults and collect stories and hear what people have to say and honor that person that they've always been, that they continue to be, and that you want people in the future to remember. But you can't help but see some of the reality on the ground,
Yeah.
just the physicality, the mental states, all those types of things.
yeah,
And I've gotten to know a lot of colleagues in your line of work who are anything from helping people prepare for, either end of life to, what's the next phase, all that sort of stuff. And it's to help someone understand that, for one, there is a problem. And
yeah,
even when things are fine, you're heading, like the arc of all of it
Yeah.
is heading toward a crucial decision. So helping people react to a problem that isn't currently acute
yeah,
is always tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, the vitamin industry is kind of good at it.
Yeah.
Foot care is good at it, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen it really work yet with age. And it's such an interesting thing because it's like,
yeah,
it's just been happening forever. And
Yeah.
what's funny is, people have been getting old this entire time.
Yeah.
It's like we're still figuring out how to eat. What are
Yeah.
our diets supposed to be? We've been
Yeah.
eating for, hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
years. Still haven't quite figured that out. But I
Yeah.
feel like we've complicated it. Do you, if you thinking back to how it worked in Barbados, right? How are those values communicating with the able tech mindset? Do you feel like you're trying to bridge those in any way, consciously or unconsciously? And how do we
Yeah.
get people there?
I guess in the one case, I think, so most of the time, at Tender Rose, I interface with a very different referral source. So they were the heads of departments of hospitals and financial planners who were, responsible for a very wealthy family. And they were very invested in kind of doing well. They were very risk averse, right? And so I use them to help level that, get people having this conversation. So I talked with people who were kind of responsible for the long-term care of a family to get me talking to families ahead of time. And so that's going to be my strategy, is more talking to, if I'm an adult daughter and my mom is cruising towards a really challenging long-term care journey, it would behoove me to have more information, and it actually would support me because maybe I'm sandwich generation. I have younger kids, or maybe I'm mom's always wanted to leave her money to the Sierra Club, and now all of a sudden I'm looking at her having to use all of that just for whatever.
Right.
So I'm trying to kind of talk to experts in the field and say, hey, you and I know how this rolls out, right? And we know what the information, the resources that people need early stream. So can we start having conversations earlier? And I'm receiving a lot of feedback that people are so open to that. And right now I'm actually working with Vivalon to help create a forum which is navigating those conversations for families. So it's almost like we're going to take walk steps on to, like, if you have MCI, this is what, on both the for-profit and the nonprofit and government sides. And we're going to invite people so you can almost do a walk through a potential care journey and know this is when you should get a fiduciary. This is when you need a family therapist because there's family dynamics. This is when you should do your POA. And so to empower people to start thinking about that, because I think the model in Barbados is it's mutual ownership. So community ownership, kind of like what I said about kids.
Yeah.
You're not off the table for your community, whether it's your parent or someone else's parent, your kid or someone else's kid. There's a complete investment in the well-being of the whole, right? And so while this culture is very individualistic, and that might be too hard of an ask, what I could do is say, hey, look, children, I can tell you where this is going, and I'm going to help you stop it from going in that way by having a conversation and kind of getting our head out of the sand and being more in charge. And it's more the conversation about empowerment. And the shift is from reactive sick care to well care, expanding health span, because we haven't focused there. But here's the huge problem. Here's a problem that makes me almost cry. There's so much money to be made in sick care that most people don't even want to bother. They say to me, oh, Paula, we can make tons of money doing this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just like, you can make money doing both, and you can feel really good about what you're doing if you do that.
That's one of them,
And that's sort of like my game show that I'm rounding about. As someone who's always been on the outside looking in, I'm on the outside looking at this all happening and all the torrential where we're going, just saying, please, let's do better, be better. Let's work together. And it's not just working within a certain system. It's not going to be successful unless it works within the whole ecosystem. And that's why I've been talking to Vivalon. I talk to government people, and I talk to end users, and I talk to older adults, and I'm just like, we got to get invested in our community and create more infrastructure and more opportunities to do this better, because I fear, like, we're seeing older adults end up in the streets of San Francisco, here in Marin, and guess what's going to happen going forward?
It's only worse.
How many older adults can you step over until you are like, wow, I wish I had been a part of that solution, And so I'm super crazy motivated right now. I think some people are like, oh no, Paula's calling. She's gonna be pushing my envelope about that. But that's my role. I'm a little bit of a provocateur, and I'm just gonna keep on saying it, because we all feel it, and we see it coming. But I feel like, act now, don't wait, until it's.
If there's any one thing that we hear more than anything else, it's, I wish I would have done this with whoever, right?
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time. But before we wrap up, I want to, because you are directly involved with the professional side, high level people, administrators and families, and you've seen the way people have communicated that loving care and anticipation of the future in a much more communal situation in Barbados, right? The conversation with grandma or grandpa, I'm curious, I don't know how that goes. I mean, if it's just there's a cultural understanding, like, okay, this is my time to be this guy, or is there a family conversation? And what, I guess the bigger question, or if there is a question in my ramblings at this moment, how can families have this conversation with their loved ones while still maintaining dignity and respect for them, but addressing the clear trajectory of where things are heading? Well, how do you help people navigate that?
Yeah. Well, you said it at the very beginning of when we started talking. It's got to come from empathy, right? And empathy is multifactored and multidimensional and constantly changing. So I would encourage family members to get together and connect individually, and then try and connect with our older adults, because that pathway, the success of that, if you're wanting to create action, is only going to happen when I feel that you're connected to me. So that's all the family members, including the older adult. And sometimes that's going to mean that you're not going to poke the bear, be like forthcoming, and in healthcare we call it therapeutic lying or whatever it is. Dad wants to be independent, dad has MCI, you can't, maybe he has anosognosia, you can't talk about it, and it's doing no one any good to talk about it. So you just organize yourself accordingly. You ask yourself, the family does, who is dad as a person? How can dad grow old and feel good about himself as we know him, not as we want to know him?
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing. Like, I remember a nurse saying to me, oh, we have a gentleman in Mill Valley, and he's 97 and he has 25 steps up to his house. And she paused for a second, and we both agreed that's why he's 97, and because he has.
Yeah.
So taking him away from doing those steps all the time, not a good idea.
Right.
And so it's so specific to that family ecosystem, to those individuals involved. And the only pathway to figuring anything out like that is to go slow, take time, don't come with your own agenda, create spaciousness, be curious, ask questions, sit with it, and guess what? As a family, you're going to be doing that all the time. But I have seen, this is one of the things that I tell people all the time. People always think of dementia as like the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to you. I can tell you, I've seen more love and more healing and more amazing things happen when people break down and allow themselves to be present through the experience. Like literally almost, and I hate to say it because I don't want, if people are having a bad experience with dementia, I don't want them to feel bad about that. That's your experience.
Sure.
But I've seen people say that it was the thing that saved the family. Like it pulled everyone together. Everyone's living elsewhere and disconnected and whatever. Dad gets dementia and the whole family comes together to make dad have a high quality of life. And it feels good because at the end of the day, the best thing in the world that we have for ourselves truly is if we can make someone else feel really, really good. I don't care what anyone says. It's not about you feeling really good. I know, I just believe in it. The thing that makes us feel most happy is when we can make another human being have a rock star, amazing moment and just feel really good. And if you can continue to do that for someone that you really care for, you're going to live a beautiful life and they're going to live a beautiful life. So, and the only pathway to that is through empathy.
I cannot think of a better note to end our conversation on. Thank you so much, Paula, for that.
Thank you.
I'm going to make sure that we put up links to any resources that you think people should have.
Absolutely.
To your company and to the, you've done so many, we didn't even touch on your career. You've done so many different things, but I'll be sure that any resources that you want available are made available to people. But
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.